On this JavaScript project, we're going to work on using the Openweathermap API. So let's jump over to the OpenWeather. So if we look at OpenWeather here, on this website, what we're able to do is use their API to get different weather conditions. So you need to create a new account and sign in. And with that, I already have an account and I'm signed in. And to use the service, one of the things that you will need is an API key. So the API key is what you use to authenticate who you are as the user. Because we have different plans with it. You can get going with the free plan, which gives you the current weather. You can do 1 million calls a month. That's pretty big. So unless you build something that goes uber viral, it shouldn't be a problem. Otherwise, you can get other things that would give you forecasting for longer durations and other advanced features depending on how much you want to pay. But right now, we're going to be using the free version of this. Now, when I look at the API's Application Programming Interface, what we can do is look at the documentation for that. And what we see is that to make a call, we use XML HTTP request, so an Hxr, to access the service. And we provide some information, in this case latitude and longitude, and then I need my API key. So one of the things that I can do to create an API key is I can go here and choose my API keys. Now I have a number of keys already set up that I've used for other projects, but if I wanted to go here and go weather 2022 and generate that key, now we can see that I have a key. And with that, I can simply, let's see, does that copy it? No, that would allow me to edit it. So I just highlight that, copy it. All right. So that's all I need to do to generate a key. Again, you can have as many keys as you want. We use the API key. We put in location information. Commonly, we use latitude and longitude. It's a little more precise than using, say, a zip code. But you could also put in a zip code as well when you are working with it. And once you do that, it gives you back a bunch of JSON, JavaScript object notation format document. So it gives a lot of information. Now, if you're looking for a specific latitude and longitude to plug into it, you could just hop on to Google Maps. If you select a location on Google Maps, you'll notice that it gives you latitude and longitude information. So I plug that in, use one of my API keys, and this is what the JSON looks like. Now, that's not really readable, and if we hop into a JSON viewer, and this one, the Code Beautify one, I pasted in that JSON, and this is what it gives me. So we can see, based on this latitude and longitude, it tells me my current weather conditions. Now, it has temperature information, feels like actual temperature, min, max, pressure, and humidity. I have visibility, I have wind speed and direction, clouds, time, sunrise, sunset, which is nice, and then I get a name, a location of where I'm at. So this is all the basic information that it sends back. So we're able to use that information and display text on our web page, which is what we're going to look at how to do that. So if I go back into my document here, I just have a basic HTML document, and it's waiting for me to start putting in some script information. The first thing that I want to do is I want to create a file for my API key. So I'm going to just save that, and then in the create a variable, paste in a value, and we need to put that into quotes so it's happy, and now save it. So you can see, got to start here. I have my key. Now if I go back over here, what I'm going to do is before I load that script, I want to do it as script source, and now this will be my weather API key.js. Now the reason that I am doing it this way is I don't like to store my key inside my main script, and if I post my project up on GitHub, it's public. I can leave this file off of the repository with the key in it, so I'm not sharing it, so my key isn't public for other people. Now, technically, my key is being published in the video, so you can go and grab that information if people want it to be bad. But for a production project, we usually want our key not inside our main script file as we are working with it. So now that I have that, I can even just simply log out the information, and I just want to see, what did I call it again? Weather API key, so I can go let's try and type correctly, save my file. Now we are up and running over here, and I can see that it pasted out my key. So we do know that that variable that is in this additional JavaScript file is now available to our current document. So there are times when we want to separate out what we're doing so that it makes it a little bit easier for us to keep our code organized. If we have utility classes, things that we share from project to project that don't have anything that would be specific or unique to a single project, we put those in a separate file so that we can use them, and that makes our working more efficient. So I'm creating two temporary variables. They're lat and long, so I can populate those as a may work with that as we progress in this. And now we're going to grab a hold of the paragraph that is there. So our current document, the only HTML that's going on, we can see is just I have a paragraph with the class of weather attached to it. So this document is the shell of a thing that I kind of use to build things out, so it already had that paragraph in place. You can use whatever you want. Okay, so now we've done kind of some of our business stuff. We have access to our paragraph, we have our API key. Now we're going to work on getting our JSON from Openweathermap.org. So I'm going to create an object using curly braces. Remember, square brackets create an array, curly braces create a object. So this will be a object to hold our JSON. So that's that. So now let's create the Hxr, and we'll just kind of move the screen up here a little bit so we're centered while we're working. So let Hxr equal to new XML. And there it is. That's easier to select it that way. So that's what my Hxr is. Then I say hxr.open. So this is the same as when we have a local file, but instead of accessing the local file where we would now just inside our quotes access it, this time, and we're going to use template literal instead, because then we can stick our API in it and our lat and long values that we want as well. While I'm thinking about it, I am just going to go and grab those values. So I have my longitude selected right now. So we'll just copy that, go back over here. Instead of lat long like this, my longitude is going to be equal to that, and my latitude will be equal to that. Let's just add some spaces in here, make it a little bit prettier. Okay, so now we have our lat long, we have our, I'm just going to make a note here, we have our weather API, PI key. So we have that variable as well. Just making a visual note so I can see it. So the URL where we grab this off of Openweathermap. If we go hop on here and go back up here, we can see here is what it is. So now that I have that, let's just paste that in. Okay. Now our API key, because we're doing it as a template literal, we just highlight that, and now we go weather API key. Now, could I hard code the numbers directly into this? Absolutely, yes, I could. But what you will find is if you use variables while you are doing this, it just makes your life a whole lot easier to write it, because now instead of trying to fit something in here, making sure I get the correct space and the punctuation and everything else, all I have to do is just change the value up here where I can see it, instead of trying to read it out of here where that's just a bunch of gobbledygook. That's no fun. All right, so now we have our hxr.response type is going to be equal to text. So it's going to send us back text. Now we're going to tell hxr to add event listener. The listen will be load. And now we're just going to call a function, and then that function, as we call it, where we're going to do a little bit of magic. We use our if statement. hxr.status is triple equal to the number 200, which means we had a successful request. Otherwise, that means we failed. So then I'm going to say log to the console with this error and then hxr.status. So it will give us a value. So if we get a problem, it's going to give us a message, and it will say error and then whatever that status is. I'll just put a space there, so if it indeed ever happens, it's a bit easier to read. So now once we get our hxr, I'm just going to log out to the console here, and I'll just say hxr success. So then we get some feedback. And now weather, we're going to modify it, and we need to change it from text to and turn it into a JavaScript object. So to do that, we have to parse it, and we reparse, and we parse as, not reparse, we parse it, but I was thinking ahead that this is where we parse the response text. So we have response type, which is text, and then we take that response text and we parse it, converting it into JSON so we can do something with it. And now this time, once more, I'm going to log out, and I'll just log out that JSON into the console so I can see what's there. And finally, we need to call a function to do something with it. So we're going to have to write that function now too. So function populate, and then it's going to do something. And the final step we need to do to use our hxr is we need to do hxr.send. So that actually then sends the request to the Openweathermap API. So I'm going to just save this. We're at a good stopping point there. And let's see what happened. And we got a little problem going on here. And it seems every time I do this, I forget the final part on the hxr. We do have to do comma false, because it's just like every other, not comma false, comma true. but it's when we do these methods, just like add event listener, we should even have a comma false over here. So it's that same kind of thing. We need to put those in to make it behave a little bit better. And this time, success. We need to remember that we need it to say true. So we put that true in. If we don't do that, it doesn't work. So it's a very small detail that has profound consequences. The good part is once you get this working once, you're done. We've now done the hard part, because now when I jump into my browser, we can see we have the data. I can go over here and we will see name. It's showing me Osseo, so we're in good shape, which is kind of funny because technically it's not Osseo, but that's what it pings as in the databases. So Latin long or even zip codes don't always ping the correct city name as part of it. They claim older names at times, but we can see some good things happening over here as part of it. Now we'll notice, temp value here. This is kind of an odd number as we look at it. And what we'll want to keep in mind is we do have different units that are available of standard, metric, imperial. And if we look into it, so it's using our temperature is not in Fahrenheit, it's not in Celsius. Standard temperature, if I don't specify, is coming back in Kelvin, which is why when I look at the value here, my temperature is 283 degrees Kelvin. So what we can do is we can modify what we've done here. Right before app ID, I'm just going to put in another ampersand and say units equal imperial. So now when I go over here and let's take a look at what we have, we can see that now I'm getting units in Fahrenheit. 50 degrees matches what I know the current temperature to approximately be. So it is important that we pay attention to that. So if you wonder why my degrees are 280 some degrees, yeah, that'd be hot. I mean, if that was Fahrenheit, well, we're boiling. That would be bad. So we do need to pay attention to those units while we are working with it. So now what we're going to do, now that we have we have all of our JSON working, is now we're going to start creating a string that we will then populate with data. So I'm going to say my location. Well, my location is my weather object name. And then I want to say my temp, which is now not in Kelvin, but is in Fahrenheit. My temp is going to be equal to, and then I'll say weather dot, and now if I can't remember where it is, if I look over here, we can see that the temperature is in main, so it'd be weather main temp is how we access it. So we go weather dot main dot temp, and that's going to give me the temperature. Now what I can say is string is going to be equal to, and I'll use a template literal again just because makes it easier when we're putting these things in, the temperature in, and now we'll specify our location. So $, curly braces, and location, using that value is, and now we can specify our temperature here, and our temp will be temp. And then we can specify degrees Fahrenheit. And finally, paragraphs in our HTML will be string. Now let's save this, jump over, and we can see that it's working. though 50.34 degrees like that, that's pretty ugly. Well, first thing I want to do is round my temperature, so I can round it by using, it's a number, so we can use our standard JavaScript math operation of round. Now let's save that and say OK. That's better, but I don't like the word degrees, so we do have options available to us. So instead of specifying the word degrees, we can put in an HTML escape character by using ampersand. And then if we just use DEG, save that, we can now see we get our designation. So it really, once we have our JSON, the rest of it's not so bad. It's just a matter of reading that JSON to find the pieces of information that we're looking for. Knowing that the name we give to the entirety of that JSON object, in my case I called it weather, then we have all of these items within it. So when I said weather.name, there's a single entity, so it gave me that name. When I wanted my temperature, well, we have multiple things inside of that, so weather.main, and now which of these values that I'm looking for. In this case, I asked for temp. So these are the starting things that we need to be able to work with the JSON to make our weather API functional. Good luck and have fun.